How can this be so silent? A draconian new law goes into effect on August 25th and nobody even realizes. No one knows the impact that it's going to have on their lives. The lockdown worse than anything Orwell or 1984 could ever have envisioned. And who's involved in enforcing it? Oh, not only governments. No, the social media platforms this time are going aggressively against anyone who propagates any information against it. From YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Snapchat, Amazon, to name a few. And yet, no one knows. This story, this lockdown, it's official. And we're going to tell you exactly when it began. My name is Justice Knight, today filling in for Lisa Haven. Can't thank you enough for being here on this broadcast. This story, one of the most critical you're going to hear today, this week, this month. And we're going to go through all the details. Before we do, if you haven't subscribed to Lisa's channel, or if you think you're subscribed, make sure you are. Make sure your bell is checked to all so you're actually alerted to upcoming broadcasts. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, take just a few seconds to do that. Can't tell you how much it means to me. Lisa will put a link just above. And we fear that soon these messages will be gone. That's the reason why we worked so hard for years now to create RestrictedRepublic.com. And if you haven't been there yet, what are you waiting for? After today's broadcast, you will realize how critical real information is. For less than a cup of coffee, you get Lisa Haven. You get myself giving you exclusive content, giving you content that, man, you can't afford to miss. Only the important stories, only the important news. Use discount code INDEPENDENCE at monthly checkout. That gets you $4 a month. That's right, that's it. $4 a month for 2 years. We're going to lock in that rate. And we're going to give you 14 days for free. And if you don't understand why Restricted Republic is so important, well, you're about to find out exactly why. Discount code INDEPENDENCE, monthly checkout. Let's get back to this broadcast. With strict rules on transparency and accountability, our Digital Services Act aims to protect our children, societies, and democracies. As of today, August 25th, very large online platforms must apply the new law. President of the EU Commission, well, don't turn off the broadcast because trust me, it has a lot more to do with the EU. It reaches with its gruesome arm directly into the United States and what you believe to be free media platforms. Prepare for that belief to be demolished. This original article on the European conservative, the EU's Orwellian internet censorship regime. Sometimes that term is overused. In this case, it is absolutely applicable. I'm going to cover the highlights as to why it is so applicable. The EU stands ready with an aggressive enforcement regime of this new law through the Permanent European Commission Task Force on Disinformation. This is a lot more than disinformation. This is a complete lockdown of the internet. And it starts in the EU, and it will permeate through every country that is partnered with those companies I listed earlier. There's some 230 staff paying an annual supervisory fee of up to 0.05% of their company's revenue to support this directive. Brownstone Institute. What about the Permanent Task Force on Disinformation? A question for Elon Musk. Elon Musk said, I'll keep it free. And this will never happen here. But his company's on the task force. Literally. Furthermore, Twitter is even a member of the Permanent Task Force, now X, on disinformation that has been set up under code. And that means at least every 6 months, as well as in subgroups in between the plenary sessions. Yeah, that's right. X, Facebook, Google. How are they going to enforce this? I'm going to show you many ways they're going to enforce it, but one way here. By a very simple change in algorithm. Center for Algorithmic Transparency. We need to make sure you have Misinfo Civic, Misinfo Crisis, Misinfo Generic, and Misinfo medical logged into your algorithm to control through our new law, 2022 Strengthening Code of Practice on Disinformation. Whole manual on this puppy, 48 pages long of sheer horror. Empowering the fact-checking community. The new ambassadors, international now, empowering the fact-checking community. Go just a little bit deeper in this document. Commitment number 32. Relevant signatories commit to provide fact-checkers with prompt and, whenever possible, automated access to your information, of which Twitter is on the board, and Facebook, and Google, and Amazon. Access to information that is pertinent to help them maximize the quality and impact of fact-checking as defined in a framework to be designed. There's huge penalties here, folks. This isn't just another fact-checking board. No, if you violate this law, you're done. You're fined or your company is over. That's how significant and serious this is. And if you think me broadcasting here is safe, we're in the United States. This doesn't apply. Don't be so sure. Because we're not. I'm going to get there quickly. Europe's digital enforcer takes EU tech rulebook to Silicon Valley. They've already been here. Breton flies to U.S. to warn Twitter's Elon Musk and Meta's Mark Zuckerberg to fall in line with the new law or face the consequences. This one's got teeth. European Commission pitches crisis management mechanisms. This is how deep it goes. This new law, controlling the internet, what can be on the internet, what messages could be on the internet, what is misinformation, what needs to be shut down, what algorithm needs to be controlled, and if you don't do it by their book, you're fined or shut down. I'm going to continue to say that to show you the significance of this entire network. And now we're hearing lockdowns here in the U.S. could be around the corner again. Well, this lockdown already started. The framework's already in place. August 25th, in extraordinary, unforeseen circumstances. Protocol with crisis response triggers tailored for exceptional circumstances. As they have seen before, what is this in reference to? They want the autonomy in extraordinary, unforeseen circumstances to have an immediate, coordinated response. Commission would mandate very large online platforms to perform a risk assessment and take the appropriate mitigation measures. If we deem something extraordinary, or so they say, or unforeseen, or so they say, and we alert you, there will be a coordinated response to shut down that information immediately. There will only be one-sided message now, internationally. You think alternate media stands a chance against this? You think anything you get for free will stand a chance against this? It's impossible. It's impossible. The EU has made it impossible. It may exist for a minute, but according to this, so what kind of speech is the DSA expected to police? Last year's Strengthened Code of Practice on Disinformation defines disinformation. Are you ready for this? False or misleading content that is spread with an intent or intention to deceive or secure economic or political gain, and which may cause public harm. The code has already been put to work during elections and to respond to crises such as COVID and the war in Ukraine. Don't think it's here? You don't. Who's the arbiter of truth? Oh, this panel is the arbiter of truth. Don't think it's here? Advertiser-friendly content guidelines, even on YouTube. March 23rd, 2022, due to the war in Ukraine, content that exploits, dismisses, or condones the war is ineligible for monetization until further notice. It's already here. The companies are falling in line. Are you going to separate your company's policies between the EU and the US? Boy, that would require two completely different staffs, wouldn't it? No, they will consolidate. The EU law will trigger the ultimate lockdown of the internet. The lockdown is official. It's already here. And if you don't think it is, don't worry, because they're already working on pre-bunking what you're thinking. You don't even know what you're thinking yet, but that's how far in advance they want this entire framework to work. Which brings us to the DSA. Under this Orwellian regime, a team of hundreds of unelected EU bureaucrats will decide what constitutes disinformation and instruct big tech to censor it. The firms themselves, faced with, let me make this a little bit larger. I think it's important you see this full frame. The firms themselves, faced with reputational risk and financial penalties, will have little choice other than to comply. This can be done in all manners of ways, simply by human moderators removing content, by shadow banning problematic creators to reduce their reach, by demonetizing certain content, and by tweaking algorithms, which I already showed you, to favor or disfavor certain topics depending on what they decide. And though legally speaking, the DSA only applies in the EU once installed inside big tech firms, this vast content regulation apparatus will surely affect all users in the remainder of the world. The lockdown is official. I don't know what else I could do to make this any clearer. And why is it official? Because they could be fined up to 6% of their annual global revenue, or they can be subjected to an investigation by the Commission and potentially even be prevented from operating in the EU altogether. But Justice, you keep bringing up the EU. It's in the EU. YouTube and Pinterest and LinkedIn and Amazon and all these guys, they'll never touch us here in the US. The US is the bastion of truth and freedom. Of course they won't be here. This European Union Digital Service Act that started on August 25th will never affect us. The legal accountability doesn't apply. The false or misleading content will never come across our shores. The trusted flaggers will never touch us ever. We're always safe. We're always outside the bubble. We're never inside the impact zone. Of course not. Of course not. They've never reached out, even though I showed you he's already flown here. Even though I've shown you they already have their algorithms ready to go. Even though you might be tempted. As the author, Michael Schneider, of this article states, even though you might be tempted to think you will be able to avoid all of this censorship because you don't live in Europe, unfortunately, that's simply not true. If you posted something that someone in Europe might see, your content comes under the jurisdiction of this horrifying new law. So you need to brace yourself for a level of internet censorship that none of us has ever seen before. It's different this time. It's far worse. So you need to brace yourself. You need to get ready. Because most of the large tech companies that must comply with this new law are based in the grand old United States of America. Why do you think he flew here to tell them to get ready? And don't believe for a minute they're going to separate their policies in China and Russia and Germany and the EU from what they're going to have here in the U.S. They're going to keep it all the same. And it turns out the Federal Trade Commission actually sent officials to Europe in March to assist with the implementation of this new law on U.S. soil. So much so, Cruz calls them out. Ain't going to make a hill of beans of a difference because all they do up there is talk on Capitol Hill, and they have no impact whatsoever. This will fly through. The FTC will follow it. Google will follow it. Facebook will follow it. Amazon will follow it. And any semblance of alternate viewpoints that you think you have will be gone. This is a direct attack on free speech. This EU Digital Service Act goes into effect August 25th. Landmark rules adopted for a safer, open online environment. Didn't take them long to implement that. Started back in July of 2022. Active today. So I guess we're all going to be now on these public platforms need to be much more careful about what we share because, you know, the EU might get upset. Hate to fly over there for vacation, have them find us and say, man, sorry, you know, Justice, that content you created there, that's not applicable by EU law. Why don't you come with us? Because if I say something publicly on the internet that offends the bureaucrats in Europe, I could get in really big trouble. And that it's going to apply to every other independent journalist as well. Everyone. No one will be immune from this. For a long time, the internet allowed ordinary people like you, like me, to go ahead and give our opinion, to share truth. But now the gatekeepers want that gone. A whole new draconian level of control, and the internet will never, ever be the same again. Michael Schneider, thank you, sir. Amazing framing of what I wanted to cover. We added our own spin, as we always do, our own opinion, because this has to be front and center. The lockdown has already begun. I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be here today to fill in for Lisa. I even can't wait to see your comments. They need to be plentiful. You need to share this video because so many are sleeping and blind to this, because guess what? The mainstream media won't report it to you. That's why you need to support us. Get to Restricted Republic. We'll continue to bring you the news that matters. We love you all. Until next time. Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.